In Nicaragua, government forces say they have regained control of the city of Masaya, a major stronghold for protesters. Forces loyal to President Daniel Ortega violently clashed with activists on Tuesday. Residents described coming under siege from police and paramilitaries. Masaya has been at the center of the anti-government demonstrations since they first erupted 3 months ago. Human rights groups say the number of people killed in 3 months of anti-government protests now exceeds 300. Meanwhile, the Nicaraguan government has rejected the United Nations condemnation of the recent wave of violence. Republican Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen joins me now from Capitol Hill. She represents Florida's 27th district. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tanya.
You, along with Senators Marco Rubio and Bill Nelson, say Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega must face consequences. What type of consequences do you have in mind?
Well, first of all, I congratulate the Trump administration for actually sanctioning individuals who are human rights violators of the Ortega regime, responsible for the killing of 300 plus, mostly young people in universities that have been protesting against these thugs. And what we could do is sanction more individuals, and we're giving Secretary Pompeo and President Trump more names of human rights violators. So that's number one, sanctioning individual human rights violators. Number two, we can pass my NICA bill. We've already passed it out of the full House twice. It's waiting action in the Senate. And what would that do? It would deny international funds to Daniel Ortega. He's dependent on those funds to maintain himself in power. And that's really all that he wants to do. He doesn't care about killing innocent people. He doesn't care about the disappeared. He doesn't care about the detained individuals. He just wants to stay in power. And his wife, she's the vice president. So this is some kind of dynamic duo of torture and killing. So there's a lot more that the United States can do, and I'm hoping that this administration and this Congress takes action.
And Congresswoman, do you feel that Nicaragua is getting enough attention here in the U.S.?
I am just so thrilled, Tanya, that you are doing this interview. This is the first English language interview that I have been asked to do on Nicaragua. People are aware of what's happened in Cuba. They're aware of the hellhole that is Venezuela under Chavez and now Nicolás Maduro. But when I ask my colleagues, and I've spoken on the House floor numerous times, and I asked them, do you know what's going on in Nicaragua? No one is clued in because, you know, the Middle East always drives the news, and whatever President Trump happens to be speaking on will drive the news. So unfortunately, there's been no real acknowledgement of the problem, and that has given impunity to Ortega to continue killing. He's surrounded universities, he's surrounded churches, and he is just killing everyone. He does not care. And attention will save people's lives.
And President Ortega recently ruled out the idea of holding early elections. He's also received support from the governments in Venezuela, Cuba, and Bolivia. Would you say that democracy is being truly threatened in Nicaragua at this moment?
Absolutely. Democracy is very much threatened because not only is Ortega in a power grab where he can stay in the presidency forever, but he controls the courts, he controls the National Assembly. How has he done that? He's changed the Constitution and he's changed the laws to have this power grab. And then he's got armaments and shipment and troops that are coming from Cuba and from Nicaragua, and all of these movements are helping him maintain in power, and he's always going to have enough bullets to continue this bloody attack on innocent civilians. Remember, these are people who are innocently protesting his horrific violence, and for that they are willing to lose their lives. But he's getting a lot of help from these thugs in our hemisphere. Democracy is under attack in Nicaragua.
And who is controlling the army there? Does he have complete control at this point?
He does. Not only does Daniel Ortega control the military, he also has these paramilitary thugs, and they wear masks. They have these black bandit handkerchiefs on their faces so they can't be identified, and they are doing a lot of the killings and a lot of the detentions and a lot of the disappearing acts of innocent civilians. So he has total control of that country. And when he doesn't have control, we're talking about what's happened in this city. It's like the taking of Fallujah. This is unbelievable that we're talking about a supposedly free and democratic country, and we're talking about the rebels have taken control. No, the army's taking control. Oh, my goodness. What has happened to democratic order in Nicaragua?
Congresswoman, I have to be honest with you. You know, Nicaragua had, until recently, it had the reputation of being very peaceful. I just recently canceled a vacation for my family. We were going to go to Nicaragua over Christmas because we'd heard such wonderful things, but I'm traveling with small children, and I don't feel like it is safe at this point, which is such a tragedy.
It is such a tragedy, and Daniel Ortega, the supposed president, has got to understand that by him taking these actions, he is killing his country's economy. Not just he's killing people, but now people are staying away from Nicaragua. There's a travel advisory. Our own U.S. personnel have to stay in place. It is unsafe to go there, and I have many constituents who have family members in Nicaragua, and they're trying to get them here in the United States. That's why we're pleading with President Trump to renew temporary protected status for Nicaraguans. It is unsafe for them to be going back to that country. They could lose their lives.
Yes, how is that progressing? What is the status of that request?
We're very sad that Nicaraguans have lost TPS, and we're going to continue everything that we can to push the administration to do the right thing in Nicaragua. And Haiti is another place that is under siege, and also the Haitians need TPS to be renewed. So it's the humane thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
Now, on Monday, as we mentioned earlier in our conversation, the State Department condemned the violence in Nicaragua and has imposed these additional visa restrictions for human rights abusers. What more would you like to see the U.S. government do? How much more would you like to see the government respond?
Well, I think that we need to pass the NICA Act to make sure that we can restrict the amount of funds that Daniel Ortega is receiving. These are funds that he uses to maintain and power. So if we cut off that economic spigot, that would go a long way.
Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Tanya.